Corn and zucchini fritters are easy and delicious. My recipe is healthy because they are baked in the oven instead of fried. Also, fritters are a great way to not only use summer produce, but also use up odds and ends so that you can make a full meal. For those of you who don't know, fritters are basically patties, like hamburger patties, that consist of small pieces of things like vegetables or meat or shredded cheese with some ingredient that's dry, like flour or cornmeal, and something that's wet to bind everything together, like an egg. And then they're either fried or, in my case, baked. These fritters that I'm making today are corn and zucchini. Here I have 80 grams or half a cup of grated zucchini that I grated on a cheese grater. That would be probably half of a small zucchini. Here I have somewhere between a third of a cup and half a cup of corn kernels, 80 grams. This is corn that is fresh off the cob. I just cut it off with my knife. It is fresh, it's raw, it is uncooked. You could use canned or frozen. If you use frozen, thaw it. Most corn and zucchini fritter recipes do not have onion, but I'm going to add some onion. I'm doing half of a small onion or 40 grams. I just really like the way that onion tastes in these. Like I said, most fritter recipes have a dry component as well. So since these fritters have corn, I'm using half a cup or 80 grams of stone ground cornmeal, but you can use regular cornmeal, even polenta. Or you could use all flour if that's what you have. I'm using half a cup of all-purpose flour, 80 grams, because I really like the combination of flour and cornmeal. In terms of the wet ingredients, I have 1 egg and a quarter cup or 40 grams of non-fat Greek yogurt. If you don't have Greek yogurt, I would just add another egg. I haven't made these without an egg. I'm guessing it's going to help bind everything together. So if any of you make this recipe without the egg, let me know. I'm going to add some cheese to make these corn and zucchini fritters into a full meal. So here I have 2 ounces or 50 grams about of shredded low moisture part skim mozzarella. I also have some spices, half a teaspoon each of garlic powder, onion powder, black pepper, parsley, oregano, and basil. I'm sure you could add about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. I'm also going to add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Like I said, making fritters is really easy. All I'm going to do is mix everything together in this bowl. Like I said, you can use odds and ends. Once, instead of using cornmeal for zucchini fritters, not corn and zucchini, but just plain zucchini, I used old-fashioned oats instead of the cornmeal. And it was really good. Surprisingly good. I was honestly shocked. And I actually like using old-fashioned oats more than I like using cornmeal. But honestly, I figured people would have thought that was kind of weird. But just trust me on it. I have not lost my chef hat. It's very good. Now that that's in the bowl, I'm going to add my egg. Probably should have cracked it into another bowl, but I've never had a bad egg. The onion, almost forgot the onion. This is optional, but like I said, I really like what onion does to these fritters. There's my second egg. Now I'm just going to beat it really quickly and continue mixing. I just added another quarter cup or 40 grams of Greek yogurt, and that should do the trick. So now in here I have 2 eggs and half a cup or 80 grams of Greek yogurt. Like I said, in the past I had just eyeballed everything, and I think a lot of people, when they make fritters at home, they just eyeball things. So now you know what it's supposed to look like. Like I said, you can make fritters to use up odds and ends. So if you have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you don't know really how much you have, you can start mixing, and once it's to about this consistency, maybe even a little bit wetter, you know that you are good to go. Here I have my spices. I actually might not use all these spices. I might just do half of this. So then it would be a quarter teaspoon each of everything. There. And now I'm going to add my cheese. Keep mixing. And I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees. The batter for my corn and zucchini fritters is now mixed. I just added some salt, about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Even though this fritter batter already has cheese in it, a little bit of salt definitely helps it. So what I'm going to do now is my baking sheet is sprayed with canola oil. My oven is preheating to 350 degrees. What I'm going to do is I'm going just to scoop out the fritters. I'm using this much, I'm guessing maybe 2 tablespoons. And I'm just going to put them onto the baking sheet. I also wanted to mention that I looked at the batter and I thought about it, and I only added half of the spices. So instead of half a teaspoon each, I did a quarter teaspoon each. Like I said, fritters, some of the recipes, if you look, they're kind of vague. And sometimes when people make them, they just kind of throw things together. So I apologize for not having very clear ingredients from the get-go. But like I said, I think knowing what the batter is supposed to look like is more important than having exact measurements, because some zucchinis are really watery, some corn might be watery, an egg is bigger than another egg. So like I said, knowing how it's supposed to look is what's important. Now I'm just going to take my spoon and spread them out slightly. So I'd say they're between 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch. These are going to bake uncovered at 350 for 15 minutes. And these corn and zucchini fritters are going to be delicious. But before I put them in, almost forgot, I'm going to take the spray and I'm going to spray the tops. That's going to help them crisp up just a little bit more. I just pulled my corn and zucchini fritters out of the oven. They were in at 350 for 15 minutes. I'm going to let them cool off for about a minute or two, and then I'm going to transfer them to a plate. These corn and zucchini fritters were the best. With just a few ingredients, I made a quick, easy, and simple meal that was filling and very inexpensive. Since I baked them in the oven, I saved a ton of calories as compared to frying. What I really liked about these is that they were crispy on the bottom and moist on the inside. I think they were so moist on the inside because of the Greek yogurt. If you don't have Greek yogurt on hand, I'm sure you could use sour cream, buttermilk, or even regular milk. I've even used chicken stock in the past. Honestly, I'm sure you could even use water if that's all that you had. Although they would have been even crispier if I had fried them on both sides in some oil, I was satisfied with the texture. Because like I said, I saved a ton of calories by baking them in the oven. If you want these to be more of a side dish instead of a meal, you could leave out the cheese and then they'll be even lower in calories. Honestly, given the current situation in the world, I think that knowing how to make not just corn and zucchini fritters, but just fritters in general is a good skill to have. If you just have a few things on hand, you're trying to save money, you're trying to stay at home, you can whip together a quick and easy meal with what you have. And as I said earlier, even without exact measurements, as long as you know what the batter is supposed to look like, you can make these fritters out of anything. In fact, I made a batch of these using old-fashioned oats instead of the cornmeal, and they turned out great. I used 80 grams or half a cup of old-fashioned oats, and I actually added a little bit more corn, 50 or 60 grams, so I would say about a quarter cup extra. As you can see, this recipe is really versatile, so use this as a base and let your imagination run wild. I'm going to be doing more fritter recipes in the near future, so stay tuned. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.